Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We are in this special series called Summer Lovin', a That Sounds Fun podcast series in which we want to restore hope in dating and bridge y'all to helpful conversations and practical resources and amazing experts so that you see changes in your dating life. Like now, starting with you. During Summer Lovin', we have talked through a lot of aspects of dating. I have loved hearing back from y'all about what you agree with, what you disagree with, what you're learning, what you want to talk about. It has been so fun. And every episode, as you know, features an expert on the topic. And in most episodes, like today, we also sit down with a male and a female who are single or currently dating and get their perspective on all of it. These are my staff and my friends or my friends of friends who are just normal people wanting to navigate dating in 2023 really well. Of course, they don't represent everything about dating, nor do they represent every person's experience, but I think they all do a beautiful job telling us about themselves and their stories. This is not an all-in-one guide to every part of dating, but it is a jumping off point and hopefully offers you some good wisdom you can start implementing right away. We want to bridge you to these experts and their resources so you have something practical to walk away with. And at the end of this episode, we'll make sure and tell you how to find each expert and how to find their resources. And before we dive into today's conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Gospel for Enneagram. We are all about bridging you to resources that can help you not just as you date, but as you live. And this is another incredible one when it comes to understanding yourself and the Enneagram. My friend Tyler Zach has written an incredible 40-day Enneagram devotional series that's coming out soon. It's going to be so helpful for you. It's a no-fluff, practical, Christ-centered guide that will make you feel incredibly seen and understood. And get this, it's endorsed by our friend Dr. Russell Moore and the incredible Beth McCord of your Enneagram coach. But you don't have to wait until it comes out to give his resources a try. If you want to test drive a devotional before you buy, you can download a free 5-day devotional on Tyler's website. It is the perfect way to dip your toes in and see really how profound these books are. Plus, while you're there, check out Tyler's free self-typing guide to discover your type without taking a lengthy test and get his free ebook called Should Christians Use The Enneagram? It is so helpful and a very thoughtful response to the questions that some people have right now. So just head to the show notes for links to all of Tyler's free resources. And it's tylerzach.com/free, TYLERZACH.com/free to grab your personalized book and freebies now. So today on the show, we have our Summer Lovin' expert, my friend Jason VanRuler. Jason is a licensed therapist who's an expert in relationships, including relational trauma, dating, boundaries, and today's topic, attachment theory. This is how I found him, is I was looking up my attachment theory when I'm not secure. I was looking up my anxious ways, and really his reels on Instagram jumped out at me and have been so helpful. And then I realized he was also a believer and also has a lot of resources that I wanted to share with y'all. He has so many insightful short videos on his Instagram that share these practical tips for psychological care and self-help and healthy relationships. And joining us are my friends Shayna and Sam. And together we're talking about how your attachment style impacts your relationships. And y'all, this one is so good. It's so good. When I figured out my attachment style on my least healthy days, it has been so eye-opening for me and so helpful in my own journey. So whether you've never heard about attachment theories or already know which type you lean toward, or if you're just fascinated with the way it impacts our relationships, you're going to love this conversation. It's so, so helpful. So here's my Summer Lovin' conversation on dating and attachment theory with Jason VanRuler and my friends Shayna and Sam. Friends, welcome to another episode of Summer Lovin'. Are y'all excited? How's everyone feeling?
Very excited.
So excited.
Nerves and excitement?
Yes.
A little bit of both.
Okay, great. Jason, you?
This feels like a date. Yeah,
Okay. Great. This is what we were hoping. Yeah. A very first date, but there's 4 of us.
Yes.
And you're married.
Not to be weird.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, let's go weird.
Okay, let's do what we do. Let's introduce ourselves. And so, Shayna, let's start with you. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. My name is Shayna. I am 31, and I work at Crosspoint Church. I am a creative coordinator there.
Married, single, dating, in a relationship?
Single, would like to be dating in a relationship.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Sam, tell us about yourself.
Yes, I'm Sam. I am 42. I'm actually born and raised here in Nashville.
Are you?
I am.
A
I'm
unicorn.
I'm one of the unicorns.
Yeah.
I am. I am not married, but I am recently in a pretty serious relationship.
Yes.
So it recently happened about 2-ish months ago.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's
The scuttle on the streets is she's lovely.
She's fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Yes.
And what do you do? What field do you work in?
Real estate. So
Okay.
I do like, help people buy and sell, all the normal stuff. But then I've got a business partner. We do investments. So we do, flips, rentals, rehabs, short-term rentals, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jason. So here you sit. Like many of these episodes in Summer Lovin', it's an expert like you and three singles like us.
Yes.
So will you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. So I'm a therapist, and I'm also married. I've been married for about 16 years with 3 kids, doing a little bit of writing, but really just have a heart for helping people connect. And so that's why attachment and all these things have just been so important to me is how do we best connect with each other?
Yeah. And the way I even became friends with you is I saw on the internet, I was looking up attachment theory stuff because I was realizing how I was operating. And I found you. And then we ended up having a bazillion mutual friends. And so it just was really helpful. Your work is very, very helpful.
Thanks.
So I'm excited for you to talk about this. Will you do flyover for the 3 of us, kind of teach us, fly over attachment theory?
Yeah. So attachment theory really pioneered by this guy named John Bowlby. And basically what it was is a way to understand how kids relate to specifically mom, but even parents. And so what he came up with was that we have an attachment to our parents. And they did some different psychological experiments and things like that to really illustrate there's different types of attachments. Mm-hmm. And so what they did, was this lady named Mary Ainsworth, and so she had a strange situation, and they would leave a child in a room with their mother, and then the mother would leave, and a stranger would come in, and so they would just kind of note what happened. And then from there, they came up with different attachment styles. Okay, and so if the mom left and the baby really could not be consoled, it was just so upset, and the mom came back and continued to cry, that was more of an anxious attachment, right? So it did not know mom was going to return.
It did not know mom was going to return.
Right.
Yikes.
Even if mom was going to.
You're already doing ministry I was not excited about.
Awesome. This is so cool. This is the beginning, right? And so then the other style would be avoidant. Right. And so mom comes back or a stranger's there and the child is just really not into it. Right. So it's just kind of like mom could be here, not be here. Doesn't really faze me at all.
Right.
Then we have secure attachment, which is what everybody wants to be, which is just kind of a healthy balance of mom's here, gone, I'm kind of okay. And those are really the 3 primary, which the breakup is about 50% secure attachment, and then you have about, I think it's 20% anxious attachment and 25% avoidant. And then in the 90s, they came up with kind of a 4th one, which would be called disorganized. And that comes from a lot of trauma and abuse. And so what that basically says is that the child at some point has learned to fear their parent. And so it's a different thing entirely.
Yeah. Okay, Sam and Shayna, what's your established relationship with attachment styles? Do y'all know about this already?
So I do. I actually read this book or attached that book.
Yeah,
years
Amir
ago.
Lovin. Yeah, great book.
And my counselor told me about it, said I'd be pretty interested in it. And so I would say in that stage of my life, I was in the anxious, that stage. But I would go through, spells where almost be avoidant sometimes.
Yeah.
But now through years and years of work and, just working on myself and doing all that stuff, I can honestly say that I am secure finally. So just
do you think that's what made this relationship as fun as it's been so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know she's doing a lot of work on herself as well,
Yeah.
and just getting older and just going through life experience. I think that's a big part of it.
Shayna, what do you know about attachment styles?
I don't have that much background on it, to be honest, but I think just in hearing you explain that and the little bit of research that I've done, growing up, I was pretty secure. I think somewhere along the way, I've kind of turned more avoidant in dating relationships. But I think to what Sam said about kind of working on himself, I've started doing that in the last year. Counseling has been everything and more to me. So I feel like I'm recognizing it more, and I think also kind of leaning more into that secure as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so 50% of people are secure in their whole lives from start to finish.
Good for them, right?
Good for
How did they do
what
it?
would it be like?
I would like to know. It sounds amazing.
Seriously,
Yes.
how is that real?
It happens. It happens.
I cannot fathom that. I'll tell you what, half the men I've dated have not been securely attached.
It was not
I can
me.
tell you that.
I was anxiously attached.
Yeah, me
for
too.
Sure.
That's the one I lean towards
If
for
it's okay
sure.
with you that I'm anxiously attached.
Yeah. If y'all are going to stay, if I
as
tell
long
you
as you'll
this.
come back, I'll be whatever you need me to be. Yeah. So my dating looked very much like if you just love me, I'll chase you anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the good news is that it can change, but we have to learn kind of how to do it differently. So like even how you said, Sam, is just that takes some time and effort, but we can learn to do it differently. But it does have a big effect on our dating life.
Yeah, will you talk about that? Even just self-awareness, before we even do what they, and hopefully I have been doing in our counseling work of what does it mean to start repairing towards secure? Yeah. Does it help us in romantic relationship just to call it what it is?
Yeah, there's actually a body of research that says that just knowing your attachment style can help you work more towards secure attachment. So knowing is really important. And then just knowing kind of the themes and patterns of how you show up in a relationship helps you because you can kind of identify like, I'm probably going to lean towards doing this, but maybe should do something different.
Sam, when you identified like, okay, I'm anxious in my nature, but now you feel like you're secure all the time, do you still hear the whispers?
Oh, yeah. No, I do think it fluctuates for me.
Yeah.
And even in not necessarily romantic relationships, like if I feel like my business partner's upset with me or I've done something, to hurt somebody's feelings or something, that's when I can fall back into that anxious attachment to where I just, I want to make it right, or I'm worried that, or even if there isn't anything wrong, that's just, that voice of doubt will creep in. And so that definitely creeps in quite a bit.
Yeah. My anxious usually looks like, I should just text again. I should just text again to make sure. But my learning has been, hey, Annie, no. That is you leaning on anxious attachment versus being secure in this. What does avoidant look like? I can't know at all.
I think it comes from like a self-protection kind of place for me of like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to feel these feelings. I'm just going to shut it off right here, right now. And I feel like over this last year, I'm learning that there's so much freedom in actually letting myself go there in like a healthy space, of course. So, yeah.
I keep being attracted to avoidant.
Yeah.
Was that your story too, Sam? Or were you attracted to...
Yes and no. Because there were times where I could say that I think I attracted someone that was anxious, and that almost maybe turned me a little avoidant.
Oh, interesting.
And you can maybe tell me more about that. But
if they're a little different on the spectrum, sometimes we notice those things. I'm like, oh, it really bothers me. And it's like, well, because that's what I do. Yeah, that's why that really bothers me. Yeah, I don't want that. No, thank you. Yeah.
So two of us here lean toward anxious, one leans toward avoidant. Once that's identified, should I stay away from anxious? Should I stay away? I mean, of course we want secure, but everybody's got to, besides that 50% that I cannot know, everyone's got to lean toward. Is everyone compatible with everyone?
Yeah, I think it's just how much work you want to do. So the thing is that what really bothers me is when we take all this information, we just use it to like exclude people, and we just say, well, I'm this, you're that. And it's like, yes, but we can change and things can be different. But I think it comes down to, are you willing to do what it takes to make it work? I remember traveling with my wife. We were at the airport and she needed like a headphone for her iPhone, and they didn't have the exact headphones. So we ended up buying like 3 different products to connect the headphone to the iPhone to make it work. And by the end, I was like, that was $100. Was it worth it?
Right. And she's like, 3 boxes that are very hard to open.
I don't think so. And I'm like, well, it works, but is it worth it? And so I think with this attachment thing, we have to kind of say like, yeah, we could probably make it work, but is it worth it?
Wow. Have you ever walked away because of someone's attachment style, I guess?
I don't know that I've ever been able to identify it. Like now looking back, I feel like there's so much I could probably sit and process through. But yeah, I've definitely been a product of like someone chasing, and then it just keeps pushing me away. But I've also been very attracted to people that are also avoidant, and that hasn't ended well either. I'm still single, so.
Yeah. So is there something we're supposed to do with what we know? Meaning, is there a reason that it's important for me to know that I'm anxious even when I'm not dating someone right now? So there's nothing really to work on with someone else today.
Right. Well, I think for each of us, that's our unfinished business, right? Is dealing with whatever it is that led us there. And so that can be healed in relationship. And certainly if you find a securely attached person, that all makes it easier. But ultimately, your wound is your wound. And so knowing that gives us an opportunity to do some more work.
Sam, have y'all talked about this, you and your gal?
So we just took a road trip this past weekend. And again, I read the book years ago, and I don't remember all of it. So we listened to a little bits and pieces of it, and we definitely talked about it. And there's a quiz in there. So she took the quiz, and she is secure. And again, knowing what I know now as well, that she's, I could have told her that she is secure. And so we definitely talked about that as far as attachment styles and all that.
What were her behaviors that had you know she was secure before she even took the quiz?
I mean, I can't think of any specific instances, but just of, from things that happened in my past and stuff like that, where she reacted a certain way and maybe I expected her to react a different way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's refreshing. Oh, you aren't upset right now, or you aren't. So just doing things like that, where I could just tell that she was very comfortable in who she is and also comfortable with us. And it's just very refreshing. Very refreshing. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Shayna, when you think about, and Jason, I would love for you and Shayna to talk about this for a minute, but if she's leaning on avoidant, Shayna, talk about how you even step toward relationship if avoidant is your natural stance, and how do we get avoidant people to get in relationship?
I think, and just, again, attribute to counseling of just letting myself start to be vulnerable and open up a little bit more. It's given me a freedom that I haven't really experienced before. And so I think knowing that I've been putting in a lot of work on the side, I would hope that will transfer over into relationship and as I can pursue dating moving forward. But I would love to hear
that's great.
Your advice.
Well, I think, we heal in community. So the thing is that if we have a community of mentors and role models who are doing it well, it rubs off on us. We actually don't even have to do that much because we're just surrounded by people who do it the way we'd like to. And so I think the more you have that community, the easier all of this gets, because you're not the only one, right? If you're surrounded by people like yourself, they're trying to pull you back into who they are rather than push you to the new thing.
And yet, if you knew how many avoidant men I run into, it just feels like all of them. Is that men that are in their 40s and single? Sorry, Sam.
It's okay.
Or is that my north attracting their south kind of magnetism stuff?
Yeah, maybe. So your classic matchup is the anxious and the avoidant, right? That's so fun because you get to chase them around, and that's, maybe you'll catch them someday and they'll love you. And so that's always, I like to run. And so I was like, I want to run after somebody my whole life. That sounds great. So we're wired to kind of seek the opposite. I think also as we get older, there are less securely attached people in the dating pool. Right. And so that's the challenge is that there probably are a lot more avoidant men now than, say, at 20, because a lot of those, men were not married or they've ended a relationship. And so now we're single.
Do you see that, Sam, when you're dating before this lovely gal, or even including her, because we're the same age? So we've dated the same age people for the last 20 years. Have you seen that change about women, too? Are you noticing more? Are you able to see it more clearly the older you get and the women that you date? Or at the same age?
Yes. And kind of like what Shane was talking about as well, just all the self-work and just knowing, just more self-awareness too, of even, when I didn't know how to fix something and or what was going on, just being more self-aware of it and more knowledge and reading more about it helped me understand, that about myself and be able to change those kind of things and be able to just, realize them in someone else, because, so many times you're just, it's the physical attraction or it's the just, I love this about them, and you don't go as deep until maybe a little bit later. And then it's like, ooh, maybe I didn't really realize that about you, or I just wasn't aware enough to know that. And the older I've gotten, the more just aware I am of this stuff, and it makes it easier to recognize it, I guess.
Yes. It's one of the things, Jason, that I was wondering about is, does attachment stuff show up from day one, or does it show up when things get hairy?
Well, I think both if you're looking for it, right? But especially when things get hairy. How people respond to conflict tells you a lot about their attachment style.
How far along in a relationship should we be experiencing conflict? Are you talking about we can't pick a restaurant or we're in a fight?
I don't even know if we have to have conflict as much as just talking about difficult things even. I think we should start that earlier on. Just even asking why are you single? How'd your last relationship end will tell you a lot about how the person's wired, right? So if they're like, well, I don't know, I called them 400 times and then they never called me back. You're like,
weirdly.
Okay, you might be anxiously attached, right? Or if they're like, I just moved. I don't know if they know we broke up. It's like, well, maybe maybe they're avoidantly attached, right? So I think just even asking those questions is important. I live somewhere else now. I don't know. I don't
know if we're still dating, but
didn't
I'm
forward
nice
my
to
mail,
meet you.
change my number. I'm not sure.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation to share about one of our amazing partners, Indeed. Hiring can be a challenge. And do we love a challenge? Yes, but Indeed can help us rise to that challenge and make sure hiring doesn't become a second full-time job. Whenever we're hiring here at Downs Books or at the That Sounds Fun network, we hire using Indeed, and we've always found the right person for our team, truly every single time. They are the experts at helping us find the best fit for the roles we want to build our companies with. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. When you sponsor an Indeed post in the U.S., you're 3 times more likely to get a hire, according to Indeed data. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. Plus, Indeed is the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/soundsfun. The offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/soundsfun. Indeed.com/soundsfun. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. And I have one more amazing partner to tell you about that I love. ButcherBox. Listen, when I'm in meal prep mode, I am all about ButcherBox because they supply me with the best source of proteins so I can make a bunch of things at once and I don't even have to leave my house to get what I need. They're bringing 100% grass-fed beef, organic chicken, pork that is raised crate-free, and wild-caught seafood straight to my doorstep. All of their meals are humanely raised with no antibiotics or added hormones, and you can pick from a curated box, which is what I do, or customize your own, and ButcherBox has free shipping always. It's not just the convenience of having these perfectly curated selections delivered straight to me. It is the brain space. The ButcherBox saves me from standing in that section of the grocery store trying to figure out what to make and what will be good for the right price. When it comes to my ButcherBox, I know I can make a ton of turkey burgers to have on hand and pop them in the oven when I'm ready and be set with the basic building block of my meals for the week. Plus, they are very delicious. ButcherBox is giving us a special deal just for my friends. If you sign up today at butcherbox.com/TSF and use the code TSF, you get flank steak for free in every box for 3 months, you guys. Flank steak, you guys. Oh my gosh, I love flank steak. Plus, you get $20 off your first order. That's butcherbox.com/TSF and use the code TSF to claim this free flank steak and $20 off your first order. Okay, now back to our Summer Lovin' conversation with Jason and Shayna and Sam. That sounds fun. Will you give some other behavioral check marks of what avoidant and anxious look like for people?
Yeah, so anxious is just kind of the question is always, am I okay? Right? Yeah. It's just kind of seeking that from a person, right? So it's like if I recruit you and we're in this together, your job is to help me feel okay, right? Whereas a person who is more avoidant, that sort of thing is really scary. And so they're always trying to kind of put their arm out and say like, I want you to be close, but not too close. And so that's really the difference. It's kind of one is too close and one is too far. And then disorganized is just kind of hard to predict and all over.
Yeah. So avoidant is y'all are too close.
Yeah.
Y'all are too close. So I need to retreat.
Yep.
Right. For those people who retreat naturally, maybe like a Shayna, and as she is self-identifying, I have not experienced that in our friendship, Shayna. So
Shayna just left the room.
I know.
It's very uncomfortable.
Shayna is gone. I mean, Shayna, in yourself, can you identify any behaviors that you're like, yeah, this one time, or this is what I do when I get 2 texts, when he double texts, or when we match on Bumble, or what is give some examples for people who are listening that may not know how to identify.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I can think of is last fall I went through something just really hard. And at the time, I was kind of talking to someone.
Oh, you did do this.
Yes. And the second things got hard, outside of talking to that person, it was unrelated, I just completely shut down and was like, I need to figure this out on my own. I don't need anybody's help. Like, I need to sit and process this on my own. And I mean, it ended very abruptly. And it's my fault that I did that. Looking back, I don't think that was necessarily the right person for me anyways, but I can clearly remember like that was something that I completely initiated because of the hard thing that I was going through.
Yeah. So, Jason, there are times where we can lean into our unhealthy attachment that has nothing to do with the relationship.
Right. Yeah, it almost feels like we're just destined to do it. Like we just can't even fight against it. It's like, I know what's happening. I know I shouldn't do it, but it feels better to do it this way, and I do it that way.
Wow. So she also said, and that was my fault.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I disagree a little bit, but yeah. I mean, I think it probably wasn't the right fit anyway, right? But what I hear you saying is like, when I look back, I wish I would have done it differently. And to me, that's the mark of growth. And so it's kind of like, regardless of your attachment style, what I'm more concerned with is just willingness. Are you willing to do something about it? And it sounds like you are. So I go, okay, well, that's a lesson. Now the next time, maybe you deal with it differently.
Yeah.
Sam and I would like to now tell you about being anxiously attached.
It's loads of fun.
Yeah, oh boy, my head is a carnival when I'm in my worst days. It is so bad. What are your I mean, I'll spill my beans too, but what are your behaviors like when you're stepping off the secure spot and into more anxious thinking and behaviors?
Yes, I'll speak of, years ago. Yeah, I mean, be it intimate relationship, friendships, family, that kind of stuff. I would tend to just ruminate and replay it over and over and over in my head. And if I could have said something different, or I wish I wouldn't have done it that way. And I mean, it's just on a constant loop.
Yeah.
And I just beat myself up over it, or whatever it is specifically. But yeah, it's just. I just need to either deal with it or figure it out. But sometimes it'll take me days, and those days are miserable for me. They were just miserable. So, every now and again there was a phone call to my counselor of a, hey, can I meet you tonight?
Yeah,
I need to deal with some stuff. So that would be the biggest thing of it was just, not fun.
Anxiously attached, avoidantly attached, do you spin in your brain too?
I can, but it's like, in certain instances, I just don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with the thoughts or the anxiety. So I just don't go there at all.
Will you talk about that,
That'd
Jason?
be so
That's
cool.
a real interesting
that sounds
difference.
awesome.
Yeah,
How
it
do you
sounds
do
great.
that? Yeah.
You close the
Teach us
door
what
and
you
you
do.
stay out of that room. What's it like?
What is
There's
that
no closed doors. No closed doors.
Yeah.
Well, I think because it feels vulnerable and risky to do
Yes,
that. And
right.
so it's just easier to kind of go away from that. Whereas I think on the anxiously attached side, like we feel like we'll do something to change it. Like we can get in there and muster up the courage to fix it somehow, and I'll just need to do more. And if I do more, they'll care about me. And whereas you save a lot of time, right? Because you're like, I'm not going to do all that. Yeah. But sometimes it leads you away from conversations you really needed to have.
Yeah, because my experience being the anxious side is I always think I could do one more thing to fix this.
Correct. Yep.
Right? And the response from someone who is not securely attached is it pushes them. It actually adds another 2 days onto the clock.
Yeah.
And that is horrifying for us in the anxiously attached side. Because we don't know that. That's not communicated, but I've just done it long enough to know you cannot fix this.
Right.
What happens when two anxiously attached people connect? Why haven't I done that? That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, it's a very needy relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, so Ron's like, am I okay? Are you okay? Am I okay? Are you okay? And it's like, then you get fired from your job and you can't pay your bills. And so,
all you're doing is dating. That's all you're doing.
It's very exhausting. And I think sometimes people do that and it just starts off like red hot because they're like, they see me, they get me. And then, but over time, it's exhausting because it's like there can only really be one in a relationship. And if there are two, it's just too much.
What about two avoidant?
Well, they just never get together. They forget to call each other back. They're just like, I think where I see this as a therapist, I see it like in long distance relationships that just never come together. They're like, we live across the country from each other. I'm like, when are you going to get together? And they're like, oh, probably never. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this works. So, I mean, I think there are ways that can work, but not everybody wants that relationship.
Have y'all ever done long distance?
I did. Yeah.
Have you, Shayna?
I have not. No.
Oh, that's interesting. I would have Were you good at long distance?
No,
Yeah,
not really.
me neither.
I
I
thought
haven't
I'd be
ever
okay
been.
at it, but I'm a little needier than I thought I was. So.
Yeah, I there was not a healthy pace.
Yeah.
For time zone differences and when do we see each other, and my Enneagram 7-ness also is like there's always a hole in the bucket, and so there was never enough. Like anxious plus 7 was not great for long distance.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, he was having a great time.
Yeah.
You can imagine. He was having a great time.
Loved it.
So you gave us some sentences around what anxious and avoidant sound like and behaviors. What does secure sound like? What is happening in our heads when we are the work that all three of us are doing to live more securely? What does that actually look like, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's balance. I mean, I think that's really the thing that's missing for both avoidant and anxious, that there's just not any balance. And so it's more balanced emotional reaction, right? It's less impulsivity. It's less running away. It's willingness to have hard conversations, share what you need, kind of do all those hallmarks of a healthy relationship because they just know how to do it, right? Whereas I think for some of us, that's not what we know. So it's not second nature. And so that takes intention.
Once you are secure in your attachment, is the avoidant thoughts gone or the anxious thoughts all the way gone? No. Sam is saying nope.
No, not going to answer that. Right?
No.
No, you still are who you are. I mean, and that's, I'm going to say this, which is, I don't want to pick on people too badly because in some ways there are benefits to each side, right?
Oh, say that, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think even being, more tendency towards avoidant, you do save yourself some time, right? Because there are things that we don't need to rehash 50 times. And you're like, oh, I'm just not going to do that. And I think
And I know I'm out, so I'm going to be out.
Yeah,
that's good, Shane.
And on the anxious side, we're very perceptive because we're always looking for someone to ditch us, right? So we're like, are you okay? What's happening? But we become really good at taking care of people because we can read them. And so I think this can all be really used to help us or hinder us. It's kind of up to us.
How does the gospel help?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the balance. I mean, I think that's really what we're going for is that relationship is a secure relationship. And we have access to that anytime we want.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we get like this really big challenge. And we're like, how do I find all these people? And where do I find them? What is it? And it's like you already have access to that today, right? We have the best example of that.
Sam, will you kind of talk to the friends listening who are not dating because they know they're anxious tendencies? How has actually doing it, like getting in the relationships, having them work and not work, how has actually being in dating relationships helped you deal with your anxious attachment?
Yeah. So when you were talking about that, Jason, as far as, I don't have a miracle cure for that or anything, but for me, it's dealing with it quickly. And so when I get those anxious thoughts or if I feel like I did say something wrong, instead of ruminating on it days and days and then just letting it go and then having it come back up, I'll bring it up as quickly as possible or whatever that is and have, talk that out. And typically the other person is like, oh yeah, no, I didn't get that at all. Or no. And then it does lead to a deeper conversation. And that really helps me. So, because I still have anxious moments daily, but it's just one of those just dealing with it quickly or, I'm kind of a Tony Robbins guy. He talks about kill the monster when it's small. So instead of letting it get huge and over months and months of building, deal with it immediately. And so, it doesn't happen. I'm not perfect at it by any means, but that's definitely what helps me the most. When
I was on a date, he said something and I said right away, I need you to know that makes me feel super anxious. And so let me tell you why that does. It's because this happened to me 2 years ago and this sounds like that.
Right.
And he was like, oh, that's not what I was saying at all.
Exactly.
And so, Jason, is that like for anyone listening that's like trying to get into dating and trying to have the courage to do it, even though they feel this anxiousness in them, was that an okay system? I
love that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's all about verifying. Right. So the thing is that we just need to verify, is that what you meant? Right. So when you did that, this is how I interpret it is you're never going to talk to me again. I'm terrible and bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope. I just meant I don't want to do that thing. And so just verifying with the person gets you a long way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Shayna. So talk to our friends who are avoidant or lean toward it. When we aren't this, but it is our it's how we've handled it in the past. What makes you brave enough to date at all? How has doing the act of dating people actually helped you?
Well, I'll start by saying I have not dated in a while. So I have been working on myself.
You've been on dates.
I've been on dates.
Haven't been in a relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'll say that finding like a small group of people or trusted people that I can open up to and kind of confide in and learn from has been really helpful in like gaining my own confidence in the dating world. So I think for those that are avoidant, don't want to feel the feelings or scared of them, I think the challenge would be to find that close group knit of people that you can explore those feelings with, and then hopefully that'll transfer over.
Yeah. Jason, will you talk about that for our avoidant friends? other relationships help you be braver in dating.
Yeah, absolutely. And people who support you and who have done some of the same things. I mean, that's what gets us there ultimately. Because the thing about dating is like our person, whoever we find, is not meant to just fulfill our needs and fix everything.
Yeah.
So we need to have the community and that lifestyle we want already. Because if we don't and we go to another person and say, hey, you need to be everything, that's not going to work out well.
Right, right. What does the process look like going towards secure? I mean, I want them to speak to how they've done it, but do we have to be in counseling to get secure?
Well, I'm a little biased. I mean, I think you should be in counseling with me, probably. I mean, this is a plug for my business. No, I don't know about that. I often just say, like, I think sometimes if we had the community we're supposed to, a lot of people would need to be in therapy. And I know that might not be popular sometimes, but it's true that we just need to have people around us that help us. I think sometimes where therapists are really helpful is we can have conversations with them that we maybe feel like we couldn't with other people.
Yeah.
And so even like with the more avoidant bend, it's going to be hard for you to have that conversation. And so sometimes it's nice to go to a therapist and say, well, I just left that there. Like, I don't have to talk to somebody or face somebody. I'm just practicing this.
How has that helped you, Sam? What's happened in counseling that helped you get toward secure attachment that may not have happened outside of that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, my counselor is a jerk because he never gives me the answers. He never tells me what to do.
Mine doesn't either.
I'm
She's
like,
the worst.
hey, just give me the answers.
Just tell me what to do. Send me with homework. No.
I know you know the answer.
That's
just tell me
right.
what to do.
I
And
know.
he never tells me what to do. But yeah, it's just years of doing that and talking with him, and then just friends and community and family, and having some of those hard conversations in counseling that leads to hard conversations outside of it. Because it helps doing that a lot, but it's the work outside of that is where my biggest growth came from. Years of doing it, but then really putting that into practice outside of it, so, which is not easy.
Can you be all of them?
At once? It sounds exhausting.
Doesn't it? Anxious is exhausting on its own.
Yeah. I think disorganized is probably a lot of all of them, right? At the same time, which is why it's so unpredictable and difficult. But mostly we tend to be one, but we can change over time. It used to be thought that this was just really a childhood thing, but kind of like you guys have alluded to, our relationships do play a role. So if we're with someone who's really far on the spectrum, that can be an influence on us too.
Right, because I would imagine as I'm working really actively to be secure in my attachment, it's mostly self-talk. It's secondarily external talk, but it's mostly like, hey, Annie, you're fine. You're fine. If in a world where this is meant to work, it will work. Your amount of responding or texting or timing or blah, 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 all the carnival that goes on actually isn't going to make or break this thing unless you act overly anxious. But in that, it makes me wonder that when we find a partner who is secure, does that also help heal us? I mean,
absolutely.
Has that been true, Sam?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And when you look at the research, it's funny because they're like, if you're anxiously attached, you should find someone secure. If you're avoidantly attached, you should find someone secure.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
If you're securely attached, like every single one is like, just find
Good thing
someone
half
secure.
the population.
Yeah.
Good
so
thing.
so it's like just do that and you're fine. But I think you just come into it with, this is who I am, this is what I'm working with, and I'm willing to do something about it, and they'll meet you there.
Yeah. Shayna, what would you need a man to do or be to make you feel like choosing secure attachment over avoidant?
I think someone that would be gentle with like giving me time. I think that it's in the past when people have chased after me and it's felt like too much, that's when I put the wall up, right? So I think it's almost establishing a trust and a comfortability, hopefully early on, to where I don't start to do the running. Yeah, that's what I think.
Jason, it's interesting to hear her say that because Sam sits here when he's not secure, he's anxious, which is easier masculinely, right? For a man to, I'm going to keep coming after you, right? I mean, they end up looking like a stalker. I'm sure you weren't, but that,
Yeah, that's how I got those restraining orders. It was unfortunate. It was just a misunderstanding.
Right.
I didn't mean it. No, I'm
but
kidding.
Like if
Totally
you look
kidding.
at old, 1950s dating, the women sat at home and just waited for a phone call and the men called when they could. Or when they wanted to. And so being anxiously attached as a man feels more culturally okay, and being avoidant feels more culturally okay as a woman, but I see both of all of them. Is there one that is more naturally feminine and naturally masculine?
Not anymore. Yeah, I mean, I think anymore, it's just, it can just be a total spectrum. I mean, I work with a lot of guys who are anxiously or avoidantly. I can't say there's a whole lot there. If I could, though, can I ask a question? Because
Yes.
here's a question that I ask my clients. If you were to think about your childhood, who most loved you or who loved you the best in your childhood, be it a person, an animal, a friend, and why? Because that's often really a clue as to what you're looking for today.
Wow.
And you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No, I think,
but-
I mean, I will answer if y'all want to answer. Oh, you want me to go first? You're both looking at me. Do you know what my counselor and I talk about a lot is I felt the safest in my house,
Okay.
which is really bizarre that it's an inanimate object. But my counselor and I have talked so much that a lot of my desire for safety is that I crave safety, and because I felt it in my house. I felt safe at home. So I think that's part of my anxious is you always have to leave home.
Yeah. But
that make
somebody that
sense?
helped you feel safe would be really important.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yes.
So someone who even anticipated some of these things and said, hey, wait a second, I know you're going to think about that. Just know I've already thought about it.
I fall in love with every tour manager.
Okay.
It is, I mean, it is, we have a rule that we don't take single men on tour with me.
Okay.
Because I can't, anyone who takes care of me, if I'm not my healthiest or if I'm really tired, done for.
Okay. Because it's a safety thing. That's what you're most longing for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so does that lean toward anxious? Is that what people...
Yeah, I mean, I would attribute it to that because that is what someone who's anxiously attached is looking for is I want to feel safe and secure, right? Like I want to know that I'm okay.
Yeah. Is that wrong to want to feel safe? Like would a secure, if I was all the way operating, if I was the 50% that's secure, would I not worry about safety?
No, I think you just would. It just wouldn't probably get communicated in the way that it does, right?
Like it would just sound healthier, Annie.
It would be, 20 less text messages.
Yeah.
But I think we all want that. So, I mean, we have to be a little careful in that we all want love. We all want to feel safe and secure and desired. And so, like, none of that is wrong, right? It's just how it's expressed.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be my mom and dad. I really don't. It was both pretty even. I would say as I got a little older, it was definitely just my mom. So, I probably craved that from my dad a little bit more as I got older because I just wasn't getting that from him, I don't think. But yeah, I'd just say, probably my mom, just
And
consistently.
what about mom made you know that you were really loved?
Oh, just the way that I was treated both my mom and dad treated me very well. I had an amazing childhood, no, huge issues, obviously. I mean, there's, scars and little stuff like that, but just the warmth, just the caring, taking me to baseball games, taking me to tennis matches, taking me to all kinds of stuff that I know she had no interest in at all. And dad had his job and that kind of stuff, and he was there as much as possible, but she was much more able to do a lot of those things. So it was just the showing up, just the being there. And I think that's definitely carried into my personality of just always trying to show up, try to be there for people, try to, show them that I care by showing up, by being there and, supporting them and that kind of stuff. She was very, very supportive.
Okay. Yeah. And so oftentimes, like, that's what we're looking for in a partner is somebody that has that warmth and shows up. And so wanting that. So the thing is, whether or not you had a fantastic or terrible childhood, we all think of that thing that we want. We all have that desire. And I think that's just born within us. But what's interesting is it's usually the thing we give to other people really well.
Correct.
Right? Like, Annie, you're super organized. I've been on podcasts, but yours, you're like, here's 47 things you should think about before you're on the podcast. And I'm like, she's so good at this. Because, because it's so important.
Yeah,
right?
I want to make sure when you get here, you feel like you are not unsafe. I want to make sure you feel like you know everything you can want to know.
Yeah. And so oftentimes
right.
that heart's desire that we have is actually our superpower for other people, where we give that in excess. And people are like, wow, they're really good. It's because we know what it's like to want that.
Yeah.
I'll keep it short, but I will say I had a wonderful childhood. My parents are so wonderful and so loving. I had a great childhood. But I will say we didn't talk much about emotions. And so I think that has kind of trickled into my adult life as well. When things were good, when things were happy and exciting, yes, we celebrated those things really big. But when things were hard, it wasn't talked through in our household. And it's not anybody to blame. That just is what it was. So I think looking back, I can see how that's kind of stayed with me in some areas of my life.
Yeah. And so you probably just wanted to talk and to be heard, right? So there's this part of you that just said, like, I really want that and probably still desire that now. right? And so something I'll tell my clients a lot is that we're just naming, we're not blaming, right? So we're not saying like, well, my parents are terrible, and unless you want to, but that's probably a different episode. But in the meantime, we're just naming. We're just saying like, that was the thing I really yearned for, was just to like have these deep talks, but I also don't know how to do it, right? And so now look at me, struggle a little bit with having some of these deep talks I need to have.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to share about another amazing partner, Ritual. If you're anything like me, skincare tricks and solutions keep crowding my bathroom cabinet and counter space. I'm trying my best to take care of my skin, but it is a lot of different things to keep up with. But you know, there is an option to swallow your skincare. Sitting in my cabinet is Ritual's Hyacera, which combines hyaluronic acid and ceramides in a once daily capsule. You can enhance your skincare routine from the inside out with just one capsule that has a soothing vanilla scent. Each one contains 2 of the best clinically studied ingredients shown to help minimize wrinkles and hydrate skin. It's non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, soy-free, has no artificial colorants, and is third-party tested, so you know you're putting the best option in your body. I love that this option also makes it so easy for traveling. We already have to think about enough things when it comes to packing up all of our toiletries, skincare included. Do you have room for it all? No, you don't, but you do have room for Ritual's Hyacera, and you don't have to worry about the amount of liquids or all the annoying things, because you're just packing your daily capsules, and they've seen proven results in 90 days. So think about it. If you start now, you have healthier skin by the end of the summer. Aging like fine wine, addressing fine lines, and making your skincare a little simpler every day. Hyacera from Ritual is a skin supplement you can actually trust. We already trust Ritual and love them, and I love Hyacera from them. Ritual is offering my friends 10% off during your first 3 months. That's perfect for the summer. So visit ritual.com/thatsoundsfun to start Ritual or to add Hyacera to your lineup today. We absolutely love bringing you fun ideas of products that make your life easier or fun to wear. And we love connecting you with resources that are all around better for your life as well. Our sponsors are just the best. I love telling you about them, and I'm able to introduce them to tens of thousands of you guys, of listeners each and every episode. So if you have a business, a product, or a resource that you want to advertise on the That Sounds Fun podcast, just go to anniefdowns.com/thatsoundsfun, and you'll click on the link that says advertise with us to fill out the form. We'd love to introduce your business to our listening friends. That's anniefdowns.com/thatsoundsfun, and click on the link that says advertise with us. And now back to finish up our summer loving conversation with Jason and Sam and Shayna.
That sounds fun.
Give some hope to our friends listening, Jason, who are single right now, wanting to be dating, wanting to be married. I didn't tell you all this ahead of time, Sam and Shayna, but we get so much feedback. I mean, honestly, a shocking amount to our team from singles who have never dated. And they're in their 30s or in their 40s, and they've never dated at all. I have some friends like that too. And a lot of it is fear. A lot of it is, I can't find someone. A lot of it is, I don't know how. So what's some hope knowing, man, I'm listening to this and I am like Shayna, I am like Sam and Annie, and that has stopped me. What's the hope of how we get that going?
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't let it stop you. The hope is that what I hope you take away from today is you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a therapist, do all this work. So I'm still anxiously attached sometimes. Right. If you really want to get me, Annie texts me, I need to talk to you about something, and then just don't respond for a couple hours.
And me say when. And
yeah.
then
I'm like, I'm on a plane.
God.
I'm on a plane to Nashville. I'll be there in a second. We're going to talk this through.
Hold on, pause there. Shayna, what happens when you get that text?
Ooh, good. Yeah.
There's some anxiousness that comes up. I mean, I can go to like worst case scenario. Yeah, and if somebody didn't respond right away, I would get anxious as well.
Okay, interesting. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I was just curious what a avoidant person did about that.
I think the challenge is like we get better in community. We get better by doing. And one of the biggest struggles we've had is, and I love that people are really hip on therapy, and I think it is so helpful. But a lot of the problem we've had is we've given people a lot of insight without a lot of action. So it's like, well, I know this about myself, and then I just don't do anything. And so then we beat ourselves up with it. And I think Jesus and all these teachings is to do something with it, be different, walk it out. And so, okay, that's what you bring into it. What are you going to do about it? I just have to tell you, because just full transparency, when I got married, I was like a total mess, right? And so I was trying to think about how to approach today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm the worst person to talk about how to date because it was just like the worst. And so I went to my wife and I just said, like, did you have like poor decision-making skills at the time? Or like what
Did the Lord
happened?
blind you to who I was?
Yeah, what happened? And here's what she said. She said, you were a mess. So I was like, well, you're not sugarcoating that. But she was like, you were totally a mess. But here's the thing. She said, you loved the Lord and you were willing. And she said that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And I think if we can just do that, like put ourselves out there, try, love the Lord and be willing, like that's all it takes.
Yeah. Sam, how much better are you experiencing yourself and in relationship as you've worked on getting more securely attached? Are you enjoying yourself more?
Much more.
Yeah.
Much more. Yeah, I mean, again, I still have many anxious moments, obviously.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, since this is obviously still faith podcast and that kind of stuff, is that this was probably 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that. I've said this prayer before, but I truly, surrendered my dating life to God. I was just like, I'm happy. If I stay single for the rest of my life, if I don't have kids, I'm fine. Like, I'd said that before, but I really, really meant it.
Yeah.
And that was a big difference maker. Not that I said that and be like, okay, now I'm waiting. Now that person's going to show up. All right.
Yeah.
No, and I'd said that before with that intention.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that intention. It was truly just, I'm comfortable, I'm happy. And that allowed me to have a lot more freedom to just continue to work on myself and continue to just grow. And it's made my life much better. And that was a big difference maker.
Yeah, Jason, I've found that when I'm securely attaching to even to myself and to my life, it's like Sam is saying that the more I'm enjoying the life I have right now, the less anxious I am in relationship. So the last relationship I was in felt, even when it ended, very cordially and kindly. And it was just like, oh, I think you're great, but this isn't it. Oh, I think you're great, but this isn't it. And I think part of that was that I was so settled before he showed up.
Right.
And so I wasn't as anxious with him. Is that part of the trick here is get comfortable with the life you have?
Yeah, because otherwise that's a really big ask, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like, it's a mess over here, I just need you to make this better.
Yeah.
That's really tough, right?
Yeah.
And so when we have to have someone save us, we're going to accept almost anybody to do that because it's going to seem better in the moment.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, like, you can have the hard piece first or last. It's up to you, but there's going to be a hard piece, right? So the hard piece is doing your own work. Or you can recruit somebody to make you okay and do the hard piece later.
Yeah. Shayna, in your most secure moments, when you are operating securely, how much more do you enjoy your life?
I mentioned earlier that hard thing in the fall. And I think that was the thing that finally got me to be like, I can't keep stuffing stuff down. I can't keep operating this way. So I've got to do something about it. And counseling has been what has helped me work through that. And I think when I say that I stuff things down and put walls up, that feels like it's protecting me because it feels too scary to go to that really hard place. I've now processed through some really hard things and it's not as scary anymore. Like I know I can come out of it on the other side. So I think that alone, getting through that hard thing, has helped me to feel so much more secure in so many other areas because it was just like this fear of like, I don't know what I'm going to find if I go there. And now that I have gone there, it's like, man, I can do hard things. I know everybody says that, but like now I really believe it. So I think just having that and just remembering that has helped to just kind of walk into more hard conversations moving forward. I don't know that I actually answered your question.
No, that's beautiful. And I will testify that I've watched you do that. I've watched you choose to be healthy over choose to be have the easier road, and it has paid off. Yeah. It's totally paid off. I've watched it. So it's been beautiful. Jason, what do we not know that we need to know?
Yeah, I think ask questions early on. Right. So I think sometimes we just are so in love with the idea of being in love that we skip some of these difficult questions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to have them lay down on the couch and psychoanalyze them, but just look at how do we do conflict? How do they show love? How do they take responsibility for things? All of these things are going to speak to what the relationship's going to look like.
Are we supposed to know that in like week 1, like dates 1 and 2? How long does it take to know that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, if we're going on a date, like I want to understand who you are and where you come from. So if you haven't dated for a while, what is that about? And you don't have to share every detail. But if a person says, yeah, I haven't dated for a while because men are totally jerks and I hate all of them and here I am. Okay, like where are we going to go with that, right?
Right.
Or if they just say like, yeah, I'm doing some work and I recognize that some of the people I've chosen haven't been a good fit. So I'm working on it. Like those are two wildly different answers.
Yeah. Shayna, anything else you want to say? No. Sam, you have any more thoughts?
Yeah, I think just having those conversations early. And so
How early is early? Like, are you talking on a first date? You're like, kids? No kids?
not that early.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I think it depends on the connection you have or
Yeah.
how it feels, I guess, in that moment. I mean, who knows what the difference is.
But did y'all start hard conversations about like, hey, this is my history and this is why I show up like this in the first, like, I mean, you're 2 months in, so.
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah.
So because that's something that kind of was hard for me in the past because people would find stuff out later and be like, oh, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know. And I just wanted to get ahead of that, hey, if this is not a good fit because this is how I am or because of this happened in my past, I'm like, let's just get it out in the open and then it's out there. And so if that doesn't work, then okay, good. And usually it, leads to, right, either it works or it doesn't. In this case, it's been working fantastic. So
Is that an age benefit that he and I have?
Yeah, I mean, we get older, wiser. Yeah, I mean, I think there's, more intention, right? I think when we're like early 20s, there's not a lot of intention.
Right.
No offense to early 20s listeners, but there tends to not be as much. And so I think the older we get, we have some more insight. The trouble with that insight is it also sometimes is preventative then because we go, now that I know everything I know, I can't possibly be ready to do this. And so I think what I would tell you is like, if you're going to take the time to learn stuff, like learn it to do something good with it.
Yeah, learn it to do something good with it. That's good. Jason, you're brilliant. Could we have a book someday? Like, I just feel like we need everyone to be able to have access to more. I mean, your Instagram is awesome.
Thank you.
But can we have a book someday?
I think so. For
Okay.
you, but only for you. And I don't want you to tell anybody.
Okay.
So it's just for you.
Okay, great.
But yes, there is a book coming.
Yes, how soon?
Yes, it'll be out in October.
Oh, great. Do we have a title? Do we know things already?
Yes, it is called Get Past Your Past. And so it's a lot of what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah.
Is what do we do with what's happened? And how do we use that for our benefit?
Yeah. Okay, breaking news. Breaking news. Sam and Annie are kind of anxious. Shayna's kind of appointed, and Jason has a book. Great.
And Jason's anxious.
We're
yes.
better, though. We're healthier. We're
Yes.
doing it. Yeah.
Woo,
Yeah.
we're doing
We're more secure than ever. You too. I've watched you. I've lived it with you. You are very secure. Okay, y'all, thank you for doing this. Amazing. Your honesty. I cannot wait for you to see the responses so that you'll see how much this has been helpful. Really, all three of you. I'm so grateful. Okay, because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Shayna, tell me what sounds fun to you in dating or just in life.
I think with the weather being so beautiful lately, I am so excited to go kayaking. That is something I love to do,
Do you
when
own
the
one?
weather's nice. I don't. I rent one and go down the Harpeth River, but
Okay.
I love it. If I go enough, I've told myself the last several years, if I go enough that it makes sense to buy one and keep one, then I'll do that.
Do you need a real one or would you be satisfied with an inflatable one?
I think I would need a real one.
Okay. I have an inflatable one.
Okay.
It's awesome.
We could go together, Annie.
Yes, it's awesome, and it fits in your trunk, and it goes away
I could be
instead of
convinced.
needing a garage. Okay, kayaking for you, Jason. Because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Tell me what sounds fun to you.
I think a family adventure. So
How old are your kids?
They are 12, 9, and 7.
Okay.
And I'd really never traveled outside the country. And like 2 months ago, we went to London and Paris with the
Yeah.
kids as a family adventure. And so I want to do one now, but as a mission trip.
Oh,
and
cool.
so that sounds fun to me.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well done. Good dadding. Okay, Sam. Because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Tell me what sounds fun to you.
So I'm an avid golfer, and
Yes.
it's getting warmer, and same kind of thing. I'm just excited to get back out there and play a little bit of golf. Yeah, just experience the nice weather.
Is there a course you're like someday? Is it Augusta National or is there another one?
Augusta.
Okay.
Yeah, the Masters. Yeah, that's Augusta. It's on my goals. I
Okay.
have no clue how I'm going to accomplish that. So maybe any listeners out there that
Yeah, anybody that wants
can
Sam
Those are the
connect
best
me to
goals.
Augusta,
Those are great goals to have.
Yeah, I would love to play Augusta National.
He's very securely attached, you guys. You can have him
Very.
come play with you. He won't be needy. Very good. Y'all, thanks again. This was great. Oh, you guys, what did you think about that? What about that? Aren't Shayna and Sam the best? Oh my gosh, they're so brilliant. And Jason, Jason VanRuler, you guys. Make sure you are following him on Instagram. Tell him thanks for being here for the series. Check out all of his helpful videos. And are you so interested in figuring out which attachment style you lean toward? As if you need me to tell you, because my guess is about 8 minutes into that show, you're like, yeah, that's me. I know, me too. So whether you lean anxious or you lean avoidant, we are all shooting to end up secure. So I hope that helped you today like it helped me. And for a full list of all the resources and Instagram handles from our Summer Lovin' experts, just go to anniefdowns.com/dating. We've got 2 more June episodes of Summer Lovin', so do not miss those. And if you have follow-up questions to any of these episodes, drop your questions in the link in the show notes for a follow-up Q&A episode in the fall. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and hitting the road for the last weekend of the Here For You tour. I cannot believe it is almost done. Tonight we are in Kansas City. Tomorrow we're in Dallas. And then the grand finale Saturday night in Austin. We have had a blast, and that will continue this weekend. It is not too late to grab a ticket. I think the VIP is sold out in Dallas, but we've got a seat for you every night this weekend. So if you're close to Kansas City, close to Dallas, or if you can catch a plane to Austin for Saturday night, I'd suggest it. It is going to be a really fun weekend. Get your tickets at hereforyoutour.com. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home and do something that sounds fun to you, and I'll do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me? Well, it's raining in Nashville today. So truthfully, what sounds fun to me today is a nap, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. But that's what sounds fun to me. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you out there in Kansas City, Dallas, and Austin. And we'll see you back here on Monday for a conversation about breakups. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. It is a real one with recording artist and therapist Janice Gaines and my friends Ryan and Katie. Y'all have a great weekend.